Okay, so now you know the three different types of engagements we can do. We can do preparation, compilation, review. Well, there is a set of authoritative standards that govern all three types, and that's what we're going to be looking at in this segment. So let's jump in. The rule book we use for these engagements is SARS. That's the Statements on Standards for Accounting and Review Services. I've always found it interesting that it's accounting to refer to preparation and compilation, but I guess they figured that would make the name of the book too long. In any case, this is promulgated by the AICPA just as the Statements on Auditing Standards or attest standards are. But they are applicable for what they broadly call accounting engagements, or perhaps better to say, when you look at the report, that's the giveaway. It's not an independent auditor's report, it's an independent accountant's report. So for audits, we look at the SAS standards. We also look at the PCAOB, depending on non-issuer or issuer. The SARs are designed to provide guidance anytime we are not performing an audit of the financial statements for non-issuers. Now, in order to do a SARs engagement, there are some basic requirements. One, you have to have the knowledge to be able to identify, well, what SARs standards apply to the particular engagement. Second, you have to be able to exercise professional judgment in doing that engagement. And just like audit standards, they're not absolutes. The standards are presumed mandatory or presumably required. But if you want and have need to depart from those standards, you can, but you have to explain and document the reasons why. In short, you have to justify any departures. So what do SARs apply to? Well, again, it's anytime we are not performing an audit for non-issuers. So as we've talked about previously, that's preparation, compilation, and review engagements. Now, just by way of reminder, when I say non-issuer, a lot of folks will say it's a private company. Yes, but here's the full, complete, official definition. It is for securities where they are not registered with the SEC, does not have to file reports with the SEC, and has not filed a registration statement, even a pending registration statement with the SEC. In short, this is the client where you ask them, hey, do you deal with the SEC? And they'll go, wait, what does that stand for? That's when SARs is going to be applicable when we're talking about non-issuers. But it's equally important to understand that SARs is not a big umbrella. It's not designed to say, oh yes, anything in this broad landscape. It's discrete. Preparation, compilation, and review, period. So there's a variety of other accounting services. Yes, a CPA could perform them, but they do not fall under SARs. These include preparing, adjusting, or correcting entries, say if you were helping them to simply do adjustments for depreciation or pensions. If you are providing financial consulting, helping them to prepare tax returns, doing bookkeeping, or even processing data for clients of other accounting firms. Although they all may have accounting in common, those are not SARs engagements. In addition, they are not applicable to interim reviews. Now that might sound peculiar because you say, well, wait a minute, Mike, it's a review. Shouldn't it fall under SARs? Well, when we're dealing with an interim review, the way I've always thought about it is that's part of a larger engagement. Here's the example. Let's say I'm auditing the year 2025 for a client, but they also want me to review each quarter. So I'm going to do the first quarter, the second quarter, the third quarter of 2025. The way the standards look at those engagements is as part of the larger audit. And so as a result, they're governed by the relevant audit standards. So if this was a non-issuer, they would fall under the SAS standards. If it was an issuer, they would fall under the PCAOB. But the key takeaway is if it's an interim review, the SARs don't apply to that either. All right, with that, you've got a rundown on the basics around SARs as the authoritative guide for these types of engagements. But there's still more to talk about. See you on the next one. We now know that SARs governs three types of engagements: preparation, compilation, review. And